Hey y'all, welcome back to Breaking Skin, the podcast where women in tattooing share their career stories that usually stay in the studio. I'm your host, Kale Pearson, and this week I'm going to be talking with Taylor Elyse. She is at Love Taylor Elyse on Instagram and everywhere else. What's really cool about Taylor's specific tattoo career is that she kicked off being kind of a pioneer in hand poke tattooing in Joshua Tree, California, and opened a studio really quickly, and it has gained success. The studio that she calls home and brought to life is called Love Always Tattoo in Joshua Tree. Taylor's been tattooing since 2016 and is primarily self-taught, but she has started a pretty incredible online training and in-person mentor program. We talk a lot about tattooing, of course, and what drew her to hand poke, but her journey as an entrepreneur and owning a business and being a mentor and educator and what that looks like in her career. How she balances it is amazing to me because I feel like I struggle to balance my normal tattoo career sometimes, but you don't need to hear from me. Let's talk to Taylor and hear more about her journey in the tattoo industry. How are you? Thank you for hanging out with me.
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to meet you and yap about tattooing.
Seriously. I feel like I am yapping about it every day with all these people. So to just do it with new people is even better. Let's start with how you got started. What made you even think about getting into tattooing? Take me from the beginning.
So, when I started tattooing, it was not in my trajectory of a profession at all. I come from an art background. I made art my whole life. I went to college at Chicago Art Institute and studied mostly textile design. And I wanted to work in fashion in some capacity. I ended up having a clothing line of my own for 2.5, 3 years that I loved, did pretty well. I thought the pinnacle was getting an order from Free People,
Love.
That was super exciting, but it was also a really terrible experience. It was not fun working with them. And I was like, I bet working with any other big corporation is not going to be fun either. So I kind of couldn't see myself working in fashion for 10 more years, 5 more years. I couldn't see the future in it. So I dissolved my business. I quit making clothes, at least on that scale. I kind of did craft shows and things like that, but nothing serious. And in the mix of that, I was living in Denver. I worked at Whole Foods, and I had a colleague who was covered in tattoos. And she was like, hey guys, I bought myself a hand poke tattoo kit, and I just want to, have some friends try it out and tattoo me. She's like, I have so many tattoos, nobody's going to notice if you fuck it up. So I immediately was like, wait, can I give you a tattoo? And I had heard about hand poke tattooing a few years before. I'd gotten one in not the most sanitary situation. It was camping at a women's retreat with another artist, and she did it by the light of my iPhone in a tent.
That's so memorable though. You're never going to forget that special moment between you two.
Yeah. And she's really great, and she's a very well-known hand poke tattooist now, but she that was my first introduction to it, and I thought, wow, this is so cool, and what a different way to tattoo. So then when I got a chance to do it, I was very excited. And so my colleague from Whole Foods came over to my house. We gave her this tattoo that was this big, and I tattooed her for hours, way too long. It was 4 hours of her just getting stabbed by somebody who had no idea what they were doing.
Just trial and erroring. We were just seeing what's going to be thick, how deep to go.
Exactly. I think I was using a 3, round liner to basically try to shade and do the entire tattoo, and I had no experience on even lining, especially
I don't know what that means. I don't know what the number 3 is.
Yeah.
At the time, yeah.
Right? I'm and she didn't know either. So I tattooed her, And then I think just because I was already, an artist, and my colleagues and friends were just like, oh, she did one tattoo. I want a tattoo. Will you give me a free one? And I was just like, sure. So I kind of just was tattooing friends at home for fun and not taking it super serious because I just quit a whole career that I imagined my whole childhood that I was going to do. I thought my whole childhood I wanted to work in fashion and live in California. And like, that was the life that I'd pictured for myself. And I think at like 25, 26, I scratched that whole idea and was like, all right, it's time to start over again. And I just knew that I wanted to like take time to find the next career and have that be like as close to it being, this is it, this is what I want to do forever career as possible at that age. So as much as I liked it and got excited by it and everybody else seemed to be excited by it, I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, guys. I'm kind of just trying it out. I thought I was going to be a PMU artist. I went and got certified to do microblading and moved back to LA, and that's what I thought I was going to do. I was like, you can make $700 in like 3 hours. This is amazing. I'm going to be a microblader.
I love this. What year was that? You started like getting into
That was
like starting to handpoke all the things.
So yeah, I started to handpoke in 2016 when that
Okay,
was when I was, like I said, just kind of, that's when I did my first tattoo. That's when I tattooed that's when I tattooed my colleague from Whole Foods and kind of, a few other coworkers and friends. And then 2017, I moved back to LA. 2016, I moved back to LA at the very end of the year. And then 2017, I was like, okay, I'm going to do microblading and I want to see how that fits. And, it just seemed like a good career option. And I'd never really thought about jobs in that way before. I'd always kind of thought about things in a more like artistic way. But, I felt like towards the end of my 20s, I was like, I really want to figure out how to make money and like not be struggling all the time,
Yeah.
So that seemed like a good career with like a steady trajectory, right? And I don't know why at the time I did not think the same of tattooing, especially hand poke. And I think just because like it still isn't the most popular, but it definitely wasn't that popular back then.
Mm-hmm.
This is we're creeping up on 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for a while, but yeah, I did the permanent makeup, and I learned a lot doing it, a lot of stuff that I think I probably wouldn't have learned otherwise that helped with me tattooing because I didn't have an apprenticeship for tattooing. But taking the certification for permanent makeup, I did learn more hands-on about bloodborne pathogens and how to keep a clean station. I learned about skin and the depth of it and how it shifts through the body and all of that stuff. And then as I was kind of moving into doing it as a career, I was just like really intimidated by it because it's somebody's face,
Yes.
I was really scared to like fuck up somebody's eyebrows. They can heal blue and purple and orange and like, not, just I was nervous to like
A lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and tattooing is a lot of pressure, but when it's somebody's face and, a lot of these women are like, it wasn't at the time, it wasn't just people doing it to do it. They were like, people who've survived cancer or had alopecia or were just older women with like their features changing. And, last thing I wanted to do was mess that up.
Yeah.
And I think when I was struggling to take off with that career, one, because I was new at it, and two, being nervous, I wanted to work with somebody. And I spent like a good month or two after being certified to try to find somebody to work under. And I just wasn't having luck with anybody. They all either were solo practicing or they were a big company that kind of only hired their family members. And then, or I could rent a booth and just kind of, have their guidance. But yeah, like I said, I was just kind of nervous about it. And then a family member of mine was like, why don't you just tattoo? They were like, why did you go in this other direction? It's not as creative. You're such a creative person. It was my aunt. She was like, I feel like you're just going to get bored. She's like, even if it starts taking off, she's like, I think you're going to get bored in like a year. And I kind of like sat across that dinner table like, damn it. Like,
A
I
light
think,
bulb went off and you're like,
yeah,
why am I going this direction?
yeah. It was purely fueled by like income, to be
Yeah.
honest, like permanent makeup. It was like, it seems like a somewhat creative job that is a steady income that I can do for a long time. But like hearing my aunt say that out loud to me, like, you're so much more creative than that job. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't just become a tattoo artist. So that really rung in my ears for a while. And then in March of 2017, I had a friend out here in Joshua Tree where I live now. So I lived in Joshua Tree for like 2.5 years before I moved to Denver. Then I was in LA doing permanent makeup, and then I moved back to Joshua Tree. So my friend in Joshua Tree was like, just calling to say happy birthday. And then was like, hey, I'm hosting an event. I think you should come tattoo at it. Why don't you come down and just see how it goes? And so I was busy like the whole time during the entire event. And when I look at photos of that now, I'm like, oh my God, I did not know what I was doing.
Were you hand poking that whole time in between, or were you like, back in the game, baby, I'm here?
I had done a few, I'd continued to tattoo, but it wasn't like I said, I wasn't taking tattooing seriously. It was just kind of like, this is a fun thing, whatever. And being very like blah about it. I think just being super hesitant in either direction, whether I was going to do hand poke or do PMU, I think I was just like hesitant to jump into another career. And I think like as a creative person, when you're trying to figure out like what you're good at and what you want to put your energy into, it's kind of like I feel like I can do anything. I'm delusional in that way.
I think that's just like the creative, like, I've made crazy stuff and I'll make it again.
Exactly. Like this, I painted all this back here. Like I've designed my whole studio. It's like I have that delusional brain of like if I needed to become a plumber, I could become a plumber.
I love it. I'm living for it. Love it.
So I think I was just really kind of taking my time and seeing what like, in the cheesiest way, seeing like what the universe was going to push me to do. And so it was really interesting that kind of struggling through finding somebody to work for as a microblader, that my friend was like, come work this event in Joshua Tree, see what happens. I worked the event, was busy the whole time. I had people who wanted me to keep tattooing through that weekend. I ended up staying with some friends. I got more clients. I ended up coming back out the next weekend, house sitted a friend's house, tattooed that whole weekend I was house sitting. And, it was at that point, it wasn't friends, it was like strangers. Mm-hmm. And it was just really like wild how that happened. And cut to a few months later, I was tattooing out of my home. I had moved back to Joshua Tree and was kind of still just like trying to decide on what the next step was. And I didn't know if I wanted to open a shop, if I wanted to work somewhere. And to be honest, I was so intimidated to like walk into any of the shops here and be like,
that's
hey,
so reasonable. Yeah.
I'm a hand poke tattoo artist and I'm a girl.
Yeah. Especially having not worked like in a regular shop environment before.
Totally. Because I was doing hand poke, I wasn't really interested in like an apprenticeship, at least from a machine artist. I would have loved to work somewhere and have had somebody been like, here, let me show you some of the basic stuff. Let me make sure you know how to like keep a clean station, this, that, and whatever. Use a stencil machine, do like, here's how tricks on an iPad. Like I had to learn all of that totally by myself. And I mean, I feel like in some ways it's made me a better tattoo artist, but in a lot of ways it just kind of like was a slow crawl. But I ended up opening my own studio, and that came with like me working out of my house, doing kind of pop-ups here in town still at some of my friends' businesses, and getting a call one day from the health department asking me where I work.
I feel like that's such a funny question, actually.
Yeah, actually. Oh my God. So, yeah, I got the call from the health department, and actually they called my they called and showed up at one of my friends' businesses because I'm friends with a lot of the other business owners in town. And that's why I would do pop-ups. And so they called my friend, showed up at her business and was like, hey, what's the deal with this girl? Where's she
They're like, we've been
working?
hearing things about this girl. What's going on with
Yeah.
her?
Yeah. And I was like, so she called me. When I got the call from her, I was back home visiting my family in Indiana, and they're so confused by me and what I do. It was having a lot of
Not the
conversations.
Midwest family confusion.
No, the Midwest family was like, what is happening?
And you're like, it's just the health department, you guys. Don't even
Yeah. Well, the funniest part too is like I went home kind of on the decision, like I think I'm gonna start tattooing for real, for real. And my parents were like, wait, I thought you were gonna do permanent makeup. And my dad's a dentist, and bless this man, he cares about me and my well-being so much. He's always been supportive of me being an artist, but he's always just like, what are you doing now? So
yes.
shocked when I stopped my business doing fashion. Shocked when I was like, I'm gonna do this eyebrow technique on people now. He's like, what? And being really serious about doing that. And then him finally coming around to it. He had gone to like a seminar for his dentistry, and he talked to a friend of his who's a plastic surgeon and was like, oh my God, your daughter's getting into microblading? That's such a good space right now. They make so much money, da 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 da. So my dad comes like back home from his seminar, so excited to call me, and is like, my friend told me all this great stuff. And I was like, so the thing is,
I'm not even doing that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly what I was like. I'm not really doing that. I'm kind of tattooing now. And anyway, so I go home, and they're like, literally for the first time ever as an adult, they sat me down like, what are you doing with your life? And I was like,
Midwest of like the
guys,
parents.
I don't
like,
know. Exactly. Are you from the Midwest?
I'm from Kansas. Yeah.
Oh, girl, you know.
Could be more mid. Yeah.
Yeah. You know. So they're just like, but what in the actual fuck are you doing now? So we sat down, had a whole conversation, and they were like, but are you working? Like, where are you going to work out of? What are you doing? And, very much there to support me. They were just kind of like confused. And so I get this phone call from my friend from about the health department while I'm there. My friend gave the health department my phone number. So then that's when they called me. And I didn't want her to get in trouble or deal with them. So I was just like, I will call them. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. So I'm at the airport, ready to go home at O'Hare Airport. And I'm like, calling the health department. I'm like, yeah, we just kind of, heard you were tattooing in town and we didn't know where you were working. And I was like, this is so weird. And I was like, I bet another fucking tattoo artist saw my business card, saw that I was tattooing at my friend's shop, and decided to be like, what the fuck? No fucking way. And reported me to the health department. Because the health department was very nice. They were not after me. I was worried I was gonna get arrested or something.
Yeah, they're like, hey, sister, we'll help you do the paperwork. Just let us know.
Yeah, they were so nice. And, I fibbed a little bit. I was like, listen, I just moved to town from LA. I lied. I was like, I'm a tattoo artist in LA. Like, I'm a super professional person.
Look at me. Yeah.
I literally seriously tattooing for maybe 3 months at this point. And seriously still meaning out of my house, but just
you're just trying not to get in trouble. Just trying to make it out at the end of the day.
In trouble. Exactly. So then they're like, I'm like, yeah, I've just been, I've been living in LA, tattooing there. I'm moving to the desert, or I just moved to the desert, and I'm looking to start something. So I don't know if you found my card, if you knew that I was working with other businesses, but I'm going to open my own studio. And that was the first time I had said that out loud, was to the health department. I was like, get off the phone with the health department.
Your
I was like,
fib has now spun to a new tattoo shop.
Run into this. And, it was just was one thing kind of manifesting itself on top of the other. And it's strange because I wasn't scared. I was just like, okay, we've made our decision. We just told the health department that we're opening up a studio. We'll call them when we're ready. And they were like, great, girl, just let us know what you need. And a month later, I'd opened my own studio. So
fast.
so fast. I was just terrified that like something else was going to come up. I was like, I need to do this as fast as possible. And I had a really small space. It was like maybe 150 square feet in the back of my friend had a floral studio and like boutique. And she had enough space in a back part where basically I like built out an office. So I had to like build walls, install a sink. We did it right by the bathroom so that I had like my own little zone. And I was there for just under a year before she decided that she wanted the whole space. So then I had to move. I moved into a new space right across the street, which was great. And then I was there for about 2.5 years I was there for 2 years. And that was like really when my business started going. I was busy all the time. We were foot traffic. Like, we could take walk-ins. We could, I had the front of it was like a shop. It was great. Then my landlord decided to sell the building. COVID hit and that place, just I no longer could stay there. And in a weird way, it worked out. Like most people during COVID, you were dealing with like, how am I going to pay rent? And is my landlord going to allow a pause, or are they going to collect, and are they going to collect interest? And like, there's all these crazy things, right? So kind of good that my landlord sold the building because, well, the week that it happened, so the week that everything shut down, it was my birthday. My birthday is March 15th. Everything shut down. I got the paperwork that was like, okay, you need to leave in 90 days from this place, from my studio.
And you're like, thank you, happy birthday. Okay.
Yeah. And, and then the rest of COVID happened. So it worked out in the way that I didn't have to worry about, paying my rent. My landlord actually owed me money because he broke our contract because I had signed, I think, like a 4 or 5 year lease. So he owed me money. I got to have my space for 3 months and kind of just slowly take it down. It wasn't like I had to take it down overnight. And then, yeah, that was the end of that little chapter there. And then during COVID, we just found another space to work in for me and my colleague, Gabriella. We worked in another space. It was like a back house of our friends for like 8 to 10 months during COVID. It was our little like secret hideaway, during that time when in California, you still couldn't really tattoo. And then this place popped up and we've been here for, it'll be it's almost 3.5 years now.
Wow. So, and then now you're doing this renovation in there.
Yeah. Yep. I just finished. We're pretty much finished. There's just like little tiny things, but all the big stuff is done. I'm not like drilling into walls anymore or painting anymore.
Okay, let's talk more about being a business owner and tattooing. Like you have had a business, you had the fashion business. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure you learned a ton through that. Mm-hmm. And good things, bad things, all the things. What made you just immediately jump into your career as a business owner? How has it been different? What have you learned? All that.
Well, we've already talked about how I'm delusional and think I can do anything.
I resonate with that. I understand.
It's funny. It's one of those things like now that I kind of am in rooms with other entrepreneurs, it's like, it somehow is a thing you don't necessarily like make a decision to do. It's just kind of part of who you are. I don't know. I think for me, I always have a vision and I just always work to execute that vision. And, with fashion, I wanted to have this like sustainable business where I did knitwear. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hand dye, I'm going to hand spin, I'm going to hand knit everything. And like, it's going to be this thing. And I want to see how far I can take it. And, I took that as far as I felt like I could take it. And then with tattooing, it was like, once I decided to tattoo, I just had a vision for like what I wanted that to look like, the environment I wanted to have, the experience I wanted my clients to have, the experience I wanted to have. And in order to get there, I kind of just had to do it and do it on my own and just, go through all of the hard shit to figure out how to open a business. Nobody really tells you unless you go to school for it. Like, I remember my dad's a business owner and an entrepreneur. Like I said, he's a dentist. He owns several other businesses. And I remember calling him to ask, like, Dad, do I need an LLC? And he's like, I don't know.
Thanks,
So like,
Dad.
yeah. And he's like, I just, my dad has been fortunate enough to always just ask people who know better. So he's like, I don't know, you can talk to my like financial advisor, you can talk to whoever. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because at that time when you started it, like you couldn't. Now I feel like there's a lot of resources for tattoo artists to figure out this LLC thing, but at that time you couldn't just be like tattoo artist LLC, and how do I do my taxes while I'm at it?
Right. Or like insurance, and like what kind of insurance do you need? And do you need insurance if you have an LLC? Is it better to be a sole proprietor? Are you at a point where you should move to an S corp? Like we're just literally trying to like battle a printer every day. As tattoo artists, you get alone like trying to figure out that kind of stuff. So
just trying to respond to a DM is like,
no.
I feel like I really made it out if I got through my DMs that day. Like I really did something.
For real, completely. Like if I answer all my emails in a day, winning.
Yeah. I feel like I am a professional.
I'm so yeah. I don't know. I feel like so being an entrepreneur, I think is just like something you just do, right? Like I don't know. It to me there was never a question on if I was gonna like run my own business. I don't know why. That's just I think, I have entrepreneurs who I've like all of my everyone in my family at one point has kind of owned their own business, whether it be a dental office. I had my grandfather was a orthopedic surgeon. He had his own practice. So my grandma ran that shit, and I learned a lot from her. And my stepmom is a hairstylist. She's had her own hair salon for the last, I don't even know, gosh, it's as long as I've been alive, I think. And I've just gotten to watch that. And so having that is like, I think I've been really fortunate and privileged to see that as an option, and to know that it's something that like is possible and I could do, and that I didn't have to work for somebody else forever.
It's natural. It's just in you.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome. How do you balance from the tattoo artists who are also owners that I've talked to? I always hear it is hard, like to run. I'm busy. I'm running the business owner, and then I hear like it can cause burnout and it can cause all these things. You've been doing it for several years now. So how do you manage both and not overspend yourself?
I feel like I'm at my, in my 8th to 9th year of tattooing. I feel like I'm just really figuring that out.
What's the secret?
I think I'm not doing it well at this very moment in time. And I'm trying to figure out right now how to kind of reverse engineer what I've programmed myself to do and to think I need to do. I think we're all very stuck in this like hustle culture. And I think it gets you really far, but only to a point. I think you get to a point with your business or just your career where you need to start making whatever you're doing work for you and not work for it. So I'm realizing this has been the light bulb of 2025, is that in order for me to like level up my business, to 10x my business, I need to really focus on the things in my life that make me function better. So sorry, Alexa's talking to me.
Oh no, that's okay. My Siri did it earlier. Good.
So I need to start prioritizing my time, like, instead of trying to fit in all these things I want to do into tattooing and my tattoo business. So, because right now that's what it is. And that's how we experience burnout. I'm literally like finishing a day of tattooing, then running to Walmart to grab paper towels, then coming back in the next day, realizing that we're out of something else, going back to Walmart, coming back to stock things, ordering stuff on Amazon, then going home and emailing, then, like working on merch, doing like reels, working on my social media, all of that stuff. And on top of that, I'm like really trying to work on being an educator and a mentor. So that's a lot of stuff to juggle and handle. I do it well, I do it to the best of my ability, but like still you just have burnout. Like last week, I literally looked at my calendar and I was like, why did I give myself one day off? And that, because I know that day off is still me catching up on emails. It's not even me cleaning my house. It's like literally at my computer. And I think that's the real trick is what I am definitely moving into this year, which is like, I kind of plan on taking almost all of March off, as a treat to myself. One, because it's my birthday month, but to really, like, it feels weird. First of all, it feels weird and scary to be like, I'm taking this much time off. I'm not going to make money for a month. Like,
Yeah, that does sound scary for sure.
it's really scary, but like, I know that I'm in a place where, like, financially, luckily, I can do that. I worked really hard to be able to make that happen. And if I do it smartly, or even if I'm just working like 2 days a week for a month and using 5 days instead of 2 days, 3 days to, do all this other back end stuff, to make social media stuff, to work on my courses, to teach, like, or just rest, clean my fucking house.
Seriously. Yeah,
Girl,
I
the
feel like
mirror
that's
in
so
my
full.
bathroom is gross right now. It needs to be scrubbed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to take care exercise. You want me to eat, you want me to do all this stuff, and educator, business owner, and tattoo artist. You can't like neglect your craft either, because that's what makes all this happen.
Exactly. So I think like what I want to do for March is like get into more of a personal routine and then see where the rest of everything fits. Like, see how I can fit that into my life and my schedule rather than figuring out how to fit in working out, figuring out how to fit in going to the grocery store, figuring out how I can fit in cleaning my house. These are basic things that like I need and fuel my work, fuel my soul. So I think kind of re-engineering the process of my business to be that way, I think will inevitably turn into me being happier and healthier and my business being happier and healthier. So I
Sure,
hope
yeah.
that that's the trick to the real balance. It's not really balance. It's prioritizing.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear how this goes for you, because you're like blowing my mind. I've never thought about planning my life and then my work. I feel like it's my time blocking is work, and then like maybe you can do laundry, you know?
Yeah. Like, oh, I don't have to wait for the laundry to pile up. I can like set it in my calendar and have it scheduled, like I'm just realizing for me, in order for me to do all the things I want to do, I actually need to have things like pretty scheduled, like literally down to cleaning my underwear.
Really? Yeah. You got to make sure, and you won't forget anything if it's on a calendar, it's scheduled.
Exactly. Like, so I need to like get better about living and dying by my calendar and using that as my little ADD brain. It needs that in order to task and to get things done. And I know I function better when I have that. And so why not like let the things that lead it be the things that are going to make me perform better,
Yeah.
So that way I'm not like over here thinking about the things I need to order on Amazon for the shop. And then I'm like, oh, but wait, I need to get the dog food and I need to like give my dog a bath later. And like, then I'm distracted from actually doing the thing for work that I needed to do, when really like if I just had the tasks that I need to do for home, either certain times or certain days of the week, and they were the priority and not the secondary thing, I wouldn't be distracted when I'm working.
Definitely. That's the definition of too many tabs open. And squeezing
Girl,
in
literally too
education
many
and
tabs open.
all the things. Yeah. And then like it sounds like you're very thorough in the way you do things. Like you don't half-ass stuff. You're gonna make it happen. So, and then to toss education, and on top of that, I'm sure you want to like provide the most thorough and quality product as possible to the people that you're teaching. So I guess that segues us into, how did you get into education? What's driving you to teach the next gen of handbookers?
Well, there's nobody really teaching it.
That's true.
And I mean, just off of what I've already told you, it's like I really learned how to do everything on my own, and I did not have a community when I started tattooing, and I was scared to ask questions. And like, I was even scared to get tattooed by other tattoo artists, especially machine artists, and be like, the inevitable question is like, what do you do for a living? And then I'd be like, I'm a handpoke tattooer. Like, don't hate me or kick me out of your chair because I was really intimidated and scared when I first started. And I guess I just wanted to create a space where other artists who desperately want to learn how to tattoo, but specifically hand poke tattoo, they have a base to learn from. And you're not just like online guessing at everything,
Yeah, I'm sure not in the tattoo schools. I'm sure they're not, from what I've heard, not teaching hand poking in like
Right.
settings.
Yeah. And so I want to just kind of normalize it. I really want to normalize hand poke because I do think like it's such a great way. I think it's an amazing introduction to tattooing in general. Like my personal feeling is that I think even if you're not going to be a hand poke tattoo artist and you want to eventually move to a machine, I think it's just a really, really amazing way to learn to tattoo because my analogy, and again, this is maybe just because I have a fashion background, is it's the difference between learning how to hand sew something, like, embroider something versus learning to use a machine. Like, I think with hand poke, you're literally learning what happens when you stick a needle into somebody's skin and seeing that immediately. You have to understand depth so much more. You have to have control so much more because it's literally your hand pushing the pressure to go into somebody's skin. And I think that would be very helpful once you fully understand that to then go and to start using a machine. Because with a machine, you're learning to use the machine as you're also learning about how the skin and the needle and the ink actually come together. So like to have that really simple baseline of like, this is the very basics of how tattooing actually works. And then you can add in your machine and then that way you already know the basic and then you're learning how to use another tool. Because the machine is like, it's just an amazing tool it's the vehicle for tattooing. Like it's next level and it's come such a long way, but you are learning that thing. You're learning and there's so many different machines now to learn how to use, there's like, I don't know, probably 10 different kinds of rotary machines you could learn to use now.
There's a ton of different kinds.
Yeah. And then, and of course you have your coil machines too, which those are different. And then you have people arguing over which are better and whatever.
Here's for this and that. It totally makes sense what you're talking about because I feel like it's like zooming in, you get like a very close. And the way we always talk about our hand pokers after watching them is very intentional and very a labor of love.
For sure.
Putting your body into it and a lot of people are hurting. Like you have to sit there for so long.
Yeah. And I feel like too, it's just like, hand poke tattooing, it's gentle. Like for me to do it, for my clients to get it, I've only picked up a machine once. I picked up one during COVID. I bought one and was like, maybe this will be the time I learn. And I played with that thing on just some fake skin for about 2 hours. And I was like, this is intense. And my hand hurts and my eyes hurt. And I just don't think that this is for me.
Yeah.
And I, maybe one day that will change, but I had a really like visceral reaction holding it.
It wasn't your vibe. I think that's fine.
It wasn't my vibe. But yeah, as far as the education goes, hand poker machine, I just think it's really important to not gatekeep. I think it's important that we share this information. Like people are going to learn to tattoo whether you want them to or not. It's like the industry is so concerned with like how people are learning to tattoo, how many people there are tattooing. And I'm like, you guys, you're not going to stop the train. The train we're on a bullet train now with tattooing.
We might as well help each other out and keep it as safe and high quality as possible.
Exactly. Like give them the information. Don't make it so difficult. And I just wanted to create a course that was what I wish I could have just clicked and bought online when I first started. It would have taught me so much because we go over everything. It's like the history of tattooing, hand poke tattooing, how tattoos work, stenciling, skin anatomy, and how to work with different types of skin, colors of skin. And it's really like all encompassing. And then it ends with like, if you are looking to start a business, this is where you need to start, because that's a big part of where people get stuck too. They're like, okay, well, I feel like I've got tattooing down, but how do I get a job? Do I open my own studio? how do I save money? It's like all these really like basic things that can be intimidating to look up. It's like,
yeah, very one-stop shop. You can find everything you need. You don't have to like Google the extras, which is awesome. I feel like I want to take this course now. These are the things that sometimes get skipped in a regular apprenticeship if it's not structured well.
Totally. Exactly. So that's, I have my online course, which that's like everything we go through. And then I do in-person teaching and mentoring, and that is way more individual. You can do different amount of days. Like I know I have a 1-day program, and that's more for like, you've been tattooing, but you want to improve your technique. Because I feel like a lot of hand poke tattooers, they come in and they don't really know how to like necessarily make perfect lines. And I'm like, let me sit you down and show you how to make a perfect line doing hand poke tattoos. Or they want to learn that technique, and then they want to talk about like how to improve or open a business. Like that's like what the 1 days are for. And then I have a 3 and a 5 day. 3-day is like intensive. We're here every day for 8 hours. We're really just taking like lunch breaks. You're learning to tattoo. We're going over everything, like from how to set up, break down your station, do it like in a sanitary way, how to, they usually tattoo themselves and then they tattoo somebody else. And so they get like real hands-on experience with me over their shoulder, and me jumping in even to show them different techniques and how to tattoo. And then 5-day is the same thing, but I give like 2 days for people who are out of town. So that way you are like, you can ask a lot of questions that we can just do, in a call like this. And then when you come in for like the last 3 remaining days of your mentorship, it's like that hands-on, we're really getting into just tattooing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think that, and I'm sure yes is the answer, but whenever people do 3 to 5 days, and then I know it took me months and months and months, I feel like, to get things locked in. People can like reach back out to you and be like, hey, I'm really like this part, I can't remember.
Yeah, I actually have that in the course. So, like first thing is you get a call with me. We go over everything. We create an itinerary for you, and then, or not an itinerary, a syllabus. And then you come in, we do your class, and then after that you get 2 phone calls with me. So that like, I want to follow up. I want to know how people are doing. I want you to send me your tattoos and have me text either like, yay, or like, a lot of my students have questions like, how can I improve on this? And, then we talk about that. And I like seeing them grow, and it's super fulfilling for me. And it's just really fun to like, talk about tattooing and to talk about our specific niche of hand poke too. So,
no, yeah, it is very interesting. Being someone who is from a more traditional background, I would say street shop, always on the machine, very classic. It was this shop that I just moved into is the first time I've ever worked with hand pokers, and you hear
you're
like,
no good, right?
Yeah, I am a no good. Yeah,
Love that
I think
place.
we're mutuals. But it is
so I spotted there only
watch.
once, but I loved it.
It's so sweet. Yeah. And they've grown. I don't know when you visited, but they were in a smaller space and now it's a bigger space. It's like,
yeah, I've been in the bigger space. I guess spotted, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 now.
I'm the new kid, I feel. I started in October, but it's cool how diverse their artists are and the taste is of everyone. But it's been so interesting to like watch the hand pokers because it is such an art. And I guess people don't talk about hand poking in a traditional setting very often, because people still call it stick and poke. They don't really call it hand poke.
Right.
But yeah, this is like a great platform to identify what it is. It's not whatever people think it is. You're changing the narrative, and that's very cool.
Yeah, we're not like doing I used to have people who would come in when we had my walk-in studio. They were like, so it's a prison tattoo? It's like, what?
Yeah.
But
I can still hear that.
Yeah, we're not doing prison tattoos. We're not, teenagers on TikTok. Like I like to call it like contemporary hand poke tattooing, because a lot of people too think about like traditional like Polynesian style hand tapping, things like that. That's kind of the first thing that comes to their mind. They're like, wait, you don't have like a hammer? No, I'm literally just using the same needles that they use in other tattoo machines. And I just wrap like, some tape around it so that I have a grip and let it rip.
This looks different. I literally had this conversation with a client yesterday when we were talking about it. And I was like, no, it's not like that. I find it very weird that historically a version of a hand poke method is how people have done tattoos. And then now in Western modern world, people are like, without a machine, that's
I know.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, because, it's like tattooing grew up here with a specific culture. It grew up with Sailor Jerry. It grew up with, it being mostly men getting tattooed by men in specific settings, whether it be like a biker shop or you're getting it because you were, in the army or something like that. That's really where it like grew up in America. And it's because of social media, because of television, because of like Cat fucking Von D and shit. It's like
the culture.
Yeah, the culture around it has changed. The acceptance of it has changed, and it's allowed for different things to come through. And I think, to me, honestly, I think that contemporary hand poking has come from a place of like mostly queer people who are like scared to go into traditional tattoo shops, being like, I'm an artist and I want a tattoo. This is accessible. I really started tattooing because it was accessible to do hand poke. Like I didn't have to buy a machine. I could have the very basics of it and like learn to tattoo in that way, still make art the way I wanted to make it as a tattoo, doing hand poke. And it also just kind of like opened a door up to a softer, like, of people who were tattooing. And that's like another big reason that it attracted me to that.
Yeah.
I didn't feel intimidated by like the other people who I saw hand poking. I was like, okay, this is like my style of artwork and my vibe. I don't have to like go to one of the shops here and only do skulls for like the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's just not what you want to do. Yeah. That totally
Which
makes
is
sense.
fine.
I think you're right
Not
on
what I
with
want
that.
to do.
For sure. I feel
Yeah.
like in my perfect world, I want something in the middle, because I love that like grit and the vibe of like the traditional and the old school shops and the coil machines. But
Absolutely.
also, I love my girls. I love
Right?
going into work and being like, "How was your weekend? Oh, how are you and your girlfriend?" That's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And I think that exists, like I feel like I had that in my shop for a while. We had a machine artist in here for the last 3 years. She just moved into her own really cute private studio, just her. But she's a machine artist. Her style is very much her own, but also very much dipped into traditional. And that's like was her style. She had a lot of traditional looking tattoos. And, we got to have that really fun mix of people coming in and getting both styles done, just liking being in here in our environment and connecting with us as tattoo artists and our work. And I think that that's the most important part. And I think like you shoot yourself in the foot sometimes if you like are a big group, like say you're a big tattoo studio and all you do are these same things, like everybody does the same thing, then like everybody's fighting over the same clients.
You can't
what I
grow
mean?
off each other. You can't learn new things.
Right. Well, and then that creates it creates those interesting culty cultures, that are just kind of like, this is the only way to do it. Or like, you can't, like, there's some shops you go into and they'll get mad if like the client you tattoo goes to see the other tattoo artist.
I've heard of these things.
When meanwhile, I'm like, I'm out of town. Go hang out with Gabriella. You know what I mean? Like
with you, I like trust that you're going to be in good hands with my friend.
Yeah.
It's like the healthy way.
I'll even send clients to other shops if I like don't think that we're a right fit, like purely off of that. It's not even if I'm busy. It's like, hey, you're asking for a more traditional look. You should go to them. Like they do good work. They're trusted for this. Like that's where you should go. I have no problem.
Care about the client. It's not about like self. It's about like, I care about you and I want you to get good stuff that you love.
Yeah. Or like, I don't really do rib tattoos, but if you want a tattoo on your ribs and you want it in this specific style, normally it's kind of like a fine line or something. I'm like, I got a great girl who does that in Palm Springs. Go to her, please. Here's her information. Like, so happy for you to get exactly what you want. I'm not trying to get you to compromise around like what my comfortability is. Like, go get what you want, you know? And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think? I know that there are probably lots of other traditional shops in your area, and I know that you kind of talked about it in the beginning. Maybe they called the health department. Who's to say? But in your perspective, what has it been like through your lens and being a woman in the industry, kind of breaking into a new space and doing really well at it because you're almost a decade in?
It's intimidating, but liberating at the same time. Oh, I feel like if things were different, I probably wouldn't have just jumped straight into doing what I do and having what I have now, right? Like, that's the hindsight in it. The downside is like, I wish that like I had a better community with tattoo artists. I don't. Like, I get jealous of like seeing No Good and like all you girlies hanging out. And like even the guys who come through, they're just down and like want to be a part of it. And we're definitely frowned upon in my area. We've straight up had like, even after being certified with the health department, we've had people try to shut us down and had people break windows and all kinds of like nasty shit. I was even in an article with a bunch of other female tattoo artists in the area for a magazine that Gabrielle and I ended up getting the cover of, and it was very exciting. And we all like, it was like 10 artists. We all got a like publication in a regional magazine. It was a big deal. The only other female-owned studio up here shit all over us. She tried to get it
in the article.
No, not in the article. She was smart enough not to do it in the article, but I knew she was talking shit before the article came out because the interviewer was this sweet older guy who got his very first tattoo, and he got it done by a female, and he decided to write an article about female artists in the area that he lives in, saying how different his experience was, even just the initial steps of talking to a female tattoo artist compared to talking to a man, and why he decided to get tattooed by a female. The article, when he came to talk to us, he asked us all the same questions. And then he was like, how do you feel about the other artists in the area? How do they feel about you guys being hand-poked tattoo artists? And we were like, we know that they're not thrilled. And that's kind of where we left it. And then the article got published. We were, like I said, we were on the cover. We were the first featured. We had the biggest feature in the article. I did not expect this. We thought it was going to be this little blip in this entire magazine, right? And we ended up, being front and center. And the other girls didn't say anything nasty in the article, but I unknowingly had reached out to them, excited that we were all getting like, this little taste of recognition. And I go to one of the artists and owners' Facebook pages and see that she's literally petitioning to get the article taken down. She's talking a lot of shit about me and Gabriella, and just like, not being so female positive. And that's what the whole
word. Like, let me talk to them. That's crazy. That's like so.
Literally, we looked at their Facebook page. Gabrielle and I went out to have a celebratory dinner, and I didn't tell her that I had reached out to like a few of the ladies because I was like, this is a great opportunity to finally have.
We should all go celebrate.
Yes, we should all go celebrate. And it's finally a great opportunity for us to like try to cultivate a community of tattoo artists, female tattoo artists in this area. I'm like, there's enough of us where they wrote a fucking article about us. Like, we should be friends, or we should be acquaintances. We should at least like send clients and shit each other's way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Be just business friendly, right? Like, so I reached out to a few of them, and then I never heard back from the girl who owned the shop and was talking about us. And I tell Gabriella at dinner, and I'm like, oh my God. Or she's like, oh my God, Taylor, you shouldn't have done that. She hates us. And I was like, she hates us? She's like, yeah. Have you not seen her Facebook? I was like, I don't follow her on Facebook. So I go, and there's 133 comments about the article. She's talking crap about everybody. She's talking crap about the magazine. She's talking crap about the author. She's talking crap about me and Gabriella without calling out our names. She's just like quoting us. And like the only thing that actually annoyed me is that somebody was like asking if somebody asked her, isn't hand poke tattoo culturally appropriating? And Gabriella and I are both people of color. I'm Filipino. There's a deep rooted tattooing culture in Filipino culture. She's Mexican and Native American, heavy tattooing culture. And we're just both like, yeah, we're culturally appropriating. Okay, great. I love that you're having this conversation without us and without knowing anything about us. You've never even said hello to us. So that was unfortunate. And like to have another female tattoo shop owner, operator, several other females in that space going to that length to try to get an article taken down, to say all kinds of crazy things, that we're just two artists from LA. Gabriella grew up here. Like, I'm not even from LA.
I'm like, want to throw my chair out the window right now. This is crazy.
It was so many silly things. Like we laughed. We read all 133 comments and laughed at dinner.
Being so lighthearted.
Well, it's there's so
what
many.
Else are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? And I wanted to leave one comment just because I can't remember what she said in the beginning, but the beginning said something like, it was like a one word thing, like, oh my God, or can you believe it or something. And I just wanted to like comment like, oh my God, like at the end of like,
oh my God, can you believe it?
Yeah, just like something so silly that's like, wow, I'm so unbothered by this. Then I was like, the true unbotheredness is to like not even say anything. But yeah, it was just so surprising. I'm like,
how long has she been tattooing? Is she like a 20-year pluser?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, which again, that is what
sure.
I am running into her with this podcast. I feel like I went to someone's studio and they were, I would say, less than kind about it. So
really?
this is worldwide. I feel like this is just a thing, and I don't know. This is not feminism. This is not kindness. This does not make me as your client be like, you are such a sweetheart.
No, and I've had clients, I have to keep my mouth shut. Like, I've had clients who come in and have been like, yeah, I go to so-and-so to get all my work done. And I'm like, really? Like, they seem so nice.
And you know what? That's a reflection on you. That makes you look good because you're not going to talk shit, but I'm sure from you go to the other person and they are. And it makes you look like a kind person.
Bad. Yeah. And, I come from such a place of like, because I was hated on so hard when I first started tattooing, like, if nobody called the health department on me, I don't know if I would have opened my studio. I probably would have tattooed outside of my house for another year or 2 years, however long I was, just felt safe doing it that way. I would not have excelled my career. It would not have put me on the trajectory that I am now if that person didn't check me and call the health department and like force me to open a place. So like, as scary,
and they were mad to see it. They were mad to see you win at the end of the day.
Which good. I'm glad they were mad to see it because it made me do more. It made me do more. It made me work harder and like gave me what I have now. So like, thank you to whoever called the health department on me.
Shout out to that girl on Facebook.
All the time.
I feel like just sounding off this, it almost sounds like you're getting more hate from the girls than the boys.
I feel like that was very specific. Like getting hate on these girls, it was like this specific situation. I feel like online I get hate on by the boys, especially when I talk about education. I mean, like I had one post that went like, kind of semi-viral. That was like, it just said you don't need an apprenticeship to be a tattoo artist, and people hated it. Yeah. When it's, I mean, like whether you like it or not, it's a true statement. You don't need an apprenticeship to become a tattoo artist. There are some, I guess the only truth statement in that is there are some places in the country where you do need to work under somebody for a certain amount of hours. There are places.
Some sort of education.
Yeah. You either need to, like, I think it's Nevada and Oregon. You do need to go to tattoo school, I think, in those two states. I think they have official schools now, which I kind of think is a smart thing, if I'm going to be honest. Like, give you a concentrated place where you have to learn the basics of this thing. And it's not a 4-year college. I don't even know how long it is. Maybe it's, for all I know, it's like a week-long program that they have to do, right? I don't know. But other places, they do require you to work and have an apprenticeship for so long. But some people are stuck in those situations where I've met people now who've been in those situations where they've gotten an apprenticeship, they've worked under somebody for so long, and it's a matter of them signing a piece of paper, but the owner or their mentor won't sign the paper. And that's like the proof that they need to hand off to get their license
And that can be manipulative.
Right. And like, so the fact that that exists isn't okay either. Right. Like, I don't know. I just personally, I just don't understand the idea of like, why are we trying to pin people down to, I've never understood that. Like, I don't agree in the fact that you push people down in order to raise yourself up.
Absolutely.
I just think that that's
my
never
theory is, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is I feel like it's because these people, if they're in apprenticeship and suffered, like they got hazed, they were bullied, they were hurt, and they made a lot of sacrifices to have a career. And so they feel like
everybody else should.
I had to suffer, you have to suffer, and I'm not going to make it easier for the next round.
I tend to agree with that theory. And I think, it's like weird. It's like I agree with that. And I think that there's some merit to it, or at least there's an understanding. Like even for myself being a business owner, I used to be the only hand poke tattoo artist in Joshua Tree, right? Like in my area. And maybe not even Joshua Tree. That kind of like spreads to like half of Southern California, right? There's not that many of us out there. And, in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, there's been other people who've come into town and they're very like nomadic. They maybe are tattooing just at parties, or they're tattooing out of their house, or they're tattooing out of like a trailer or something like that. And like, I know that these places aren't registered, like I know that they haven't had to go through the same process that I've had to go through and go through every year to make sure that my studio is like good legally with the county. And to be honest, there have been the little devil on my shoulder that's like, these motherfuckers, like they don't have to do this. Like, what the fuck? And then there's the part of me, because I've been through what I've been through, who's like, first of all, I don't have the time to like call the health department and like talk shit and try to take these people down, follow up. Like, I don't have the time and I don't care that much. And honestly, like they don't affect my business. The only way they affect my business is if I make them my business. And I don't need to make them my business. Instead, I've made them friends. Instead, I've been like,
made the environment more safe.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, come guest spot here if you want to. I know that sometimes you live here, sometimes you don't. That's cool. But here's a safe space for you to tattoo, like, or even just to be friends. Like, I would much rather reach out, be friends, like, than shut them out and try to take them down. Like that just, again, it's never made sense to me to behave that way or to treat people like that. I don't think it gets you anywhere in life. And as much as I understand people who've been through shit, like they've literally been through trauma. Like some tattoo artists have been through very traumatic apprenticeships. And I understand why you want other people to feel what you felt. But a lot of the times, those things didn't necessarily make you a better tattoo artist. They didn't make you better at pulling lines. They didn't make you better at working with clients. They made you work harder, but like in different ways.
Yeah.
And kind of put you down in
and
the
don't hate on an apprenticeship, because I surely, if I had to go back, I would do it again. But it's like, I think there just has to be a balance, like between education and everything else.
Yeah, I think we're just at a point where even if you do, I think apprenticeships are great. Like, let me just make sure that that's clear. And I say that every time I've posted, like, you don't need an apprenticeship, my first line is, I think apprenticeships are great in my captions, because I think they are. When you can find a really good one, like, you're really lucky if you find a good apprenticeship in tattooing, and, one where you're treated well, you can start working, making a decent, living, instead of just like, you're the fucking workhorse who's getting shit on, isn't allowed to tattoo for 5 years. Like, you're just getting coffee and cleaning up my station. Like, I think people just aren't willing to put up with that anymore. We literally physically can't afford to put up with that shit anymore. People can't work for free. Like, sorry. I wish they could. That would be great. I would actually love to have an apprentice who would just like do all my things for me, but like, they can't work for free, and they're not going to do a good job if they're not like getting compensated in some way either. And unless you're going to be compensating really well with time as a mentor and like really care, like, it's I don't know. there's a disconnect.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Did
Yeah.
you have a moment through all this education, the mentorship, working all these years that you have like kind of stepped back and been like, I made it. I'm doing it. I am for real. Like had that little emotional like, I am that girl. Okay.
I should probably take more time to do that. I think I don't have those moments until I have people in my life, especially this last year, because I've just been like really working on my social media. And even though sometimes I look at it, I'm like, God, what the fuck is she doing? Like looking at myself on social media, like, um, but I've just had people in my life notice and comment and say only positive things to me on like, you're so good at social media. And I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, you're good at, and you're tattooing. Like, I feel like you're just, you've really got it figured out and this, that, and whatever. Like, I really am not in a place where I feel like I've got things figured out or I feel like I'm like that girl or whatever. It takes a lot for me to have that kind of positive personal reinforcement, to be honest with you. I think I'm still insecure in a lot of ways. And like I said, it doesn't hit me until I hear it from other people whose opinion I really care about, like I said, my friends or family, just complimenting me on my growth.
Yeah. Maybe in March you'll get to like reflect on that during your time off and be
I
like,
think so.
not a lot.
I've been trying to be better about making lists of like, every few months, like accomplishments, just like listing stuff out. And that really like makes me feel a lot better. And I think it's honestly, even for like being a business owner, it's a better place to be living. There's an idea called the gap in the gain. And when you constantly live in the like, oh, I should be doing more, you never take the time to like acknowledge what you've accomplished and you're not reinforcing that positive thinking. But when you take the time to, like in a moment where you feel like you're behind or you feel like you're constantly behind or haven't gotten that thing or to that place, it's a really good time to be like, okay, but you've done this, you've done that, you're, killing it in these ways. Let's not look at the thing that's 5 years down the line that you haven't gotten to yet, because you'll get there. It's just going to take 5 years to get there. And you're making all the little steps to get there. So that's the gain. So I've been much more mindful of that in the last year. I try to ask myself on a daily basis something that made me happy, like just as a small like reminder of that too. And getting better about asking just people on a regular basis, like, what's something that made you happy today? And yeah, I feel like that helps just reinforce that positive thinking too.
I'll remind you of all the work you've done.
Yeah, exactly. Reminding you of like, right. And even if it's just like the tasks you did that day, like we take advantage of those things so much. Like I don't realize that I do more tasks in a day than most people can do.
Yeah.
And I'll still shit on myself for being like, well, you didn't do the last task of the day, or you didn't start researching this or whatever. Like I'll like let that take over sometimes, but it's good to be like, oh no, you checked off this, this, and that on the list. And like, you can do laundry tomorrow. It's okay. Like don't feel shame over the fact that you didn't do laundry today.
No, it totally makes sense. Have you had a moment with a client or even a colleague that's really impacted the way you look at your career or the way you look at your tattooing?
Yeah, I feel like all the time. I mean, with clients, the best thing about tattooing is like the end result, you know? Like I love working with my clients, learning about them, giving them something meaningful. I mean, I don't know if you saw one of the last reels that I did, but it was about a client of mine who she lost everything in the fires in LA. And she wrote me just to thank me because I did a raffle to donate money to Altadena Girls, which is a group of teenagers trying to help normalize kids after dealing with the tragedy and trauma of losing everything in a fire. But she wrote me and she was just like, I just wanted to say that what you do is important. Like your work's really important. We just lost everything. And now I get to like I just realized that I still have my tattoos and I have this memory and my husband has it too. And I get to have that forever and nobody can take that away from me, not even a fire. And that's the like shit that really is like,
Yeah.
God damn it. I'm not
Yeah,
just
you're
out.
like,
Yeah, like I'm not just out here tattooing Joshua trees on tourists. Like, that is really work can just feel so mundane. And sometimes we forget that the work we do has greater impact outside of the studio. It's like you do the thing, whether you're excited about the tattoo or not, it's just this ephemeral thing. It's like they're here for a moment and then they're gone. Like I have a lot of occurring clients, but I have probably more who I'll never see again because people are traveling a lot to me from all over. It's really this kind of like, it's like weird. You're just like, all right, I'll never see you or this tattoo ever again. And
yeah.
I hope that, I just try to make that my time with people important. Like I want them to feel important. I want that time to be memorable. And
Yeah.
it's really like fun to, I've started emailing clients like back a few months later, just checking in on them.
Like, I
Just being
think
like,
about you.
yeah, like, how are you? And it's funny because I'm really bad with names. Like I have people who come in all the time who are like, my friend Stephanie referred me to you. And I'm like, who is Stephanie?
Wear a
Like,
tattoo on them.
when did they get a tattoo? What did they get? And if they can't tell me, or if they're like, oh, they got a tattoo 6 months ago and it was a Joshua tree, I'm like,
Wow.
that's so many people. Like, I don't know.
Those
I
five
still don't know who you're
Stephanies
talking about. Yeah.
left
I'm like,
full.
are they a nurse? Do they do this? Like, are they, work in tech? Like, give me some more information. And then, so when I write to people, I'll go back through our emails. I'll look back through my photos, find, and now I take pictures of everybody's face. Like, I just do a little shot of them, like with the sign in the background so that I can remember them really. And, look at their tattoo and instantly I'll start remembering all the things we talked about for that hour, 6 hours, whatever it was. And I'll just, check in on them. Like, how's your summer going? What did you end up going on that trip? Did you end up dating that guy? Like, how's
That's
it go?
such a good idea.
And
That's such a good idea.
they love it. And then I follow it up with like hey, will you leave me a review? And they love to do that. It's like so great.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not even like you're doing it as a business thing, but I feel like we genuinely think about these people and wonder what
Yeah.
happened to them. So it's thoughtful to be like, actually just ask.
Yeah. And they love it. They like, they get as excited about it as me. And with some people, you make like several exchanges and an email back and forth. And, even in a business sense, it's led to like other bigger tattoos with some of those same clients. Like they're like, hey, I just want to come back in and see you. Let me know when you have something open. And I'm like, okay, great. I got this day. Do you know what you want? They're like, no, but we'll figure it out. I'm like, all right, well, you're booked for 6 hours now. I'll see you then.
That sounds fun.
Like it's just like reciprocity. It ends up you give to them, they give back. It's a whole full circle thing. And it creates like a way better client relationship than just like the, okay, see you later.
Yeah, it builds a relationship more than an exchange. Yeah, I like that. Is there anything that's inspiring you right now in the art you're making, in the work you're doing, or like someone that you're kind of looking at and be inspired by?
I think in terms of my art, I'm changing up my style a little bit. I've been really inspired by other hand poke tattoo artists who really let the dot work show in their tattooing. I've been very like, because I was in this place of like, I don't want anyone to know that I'm a hand poke tattoo artist, like kind of hiding it. I'm just really good at line work now. I can do really good line work with a hand poke tattoo. And I feel like in some ways I love doing it, but in some ways it's kind of restricted my creativity. I feel like now I'm looking at hand poke as not just like, okay, here we're going to tattoo really clean lines and this is the style of work you're doing. It's like, how can we create really cool art? And this is the medium, and and my favorite art like lets the hand of the artist show. It lets the tools show. And, I feel like I was scared of doing that for the longest time with hand poke. So I'm excited to see where that goes and inspired by other hand poke tattoo artists who are like, this is just dots. This is all dots. We didn't even do a line. I'm like,
Yeah. That's
ow,
art. You're getting to just
no,
like
yeah,
mix it up a little bit.
yeah, totally. So that's exciting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Was there another
Love
part to
that.
that question?
Yeah. Business wise, do you have any other shops or brands that you're like feel attracted to that inspire you to grow?
Right now, I mean, I'm really inspired by my mentor. I don't know if you know who
Who is
Reese
your
Hilburn.
mentor?
Reese Hilburn. Her podcast. She has a podcast too. It's Mind of Reese, but she's a tattoo artist in San Diego. I admire her because she's an open book. She's completely open and honest and vulnerable about everything.
Love
And
that.
yeah, me too. And I'm inspired by her because she makes me feel less afraid to just share more about who I am. And within sharing who I am, I'm also like in a more accepting place with who I am. It's helping me get over those insecurities. And yeah, I think what she does and the work she does is very inspiring. And, I want to work more in that mentor space, not nearly in the same way or capacity that she does. I don't think that I have the stamina to do what she does. She can like host rooms of like 100 tattoo artists and do that daily. And I'm like, I can't. I would not want to do that. That's way too much pressure for me. I was nervous talking to just one person today through
I know
a
I saw
phone.
your Instagram, but I was like, it's gonna be so chill. It's all fine. It's fun.
But like, I think that I'm excited. She's made me excited to explore like other things that I'm good at, like within the tattoo industry. Like, so hand poke tattooing for sure. Want to continue that education. But like, do I want to take it into it being like seminars? Do I travel places and then teach people how to hand poke tattoo for a week? Like that's something that kind of lacks in our industry in general, I think, is, like hairdressers, they have people come to their hair salons all the time to teach them, like, this is the newest way to use these scissors and the newest way to balayage or whatever we're going to call it this decade. And we have that a little bit with tattooing. We have big conventions and, there's some really well-known people who have smaller seminars. But I think with a technique like hand poke, where there's just not a lot of people teaching it, there's still places like in the Midwest, nobody does it. Like I would love to take it to Chicago and start teaching people how to hand poke there. But yeah, so I think like just kind of thinking about my career in a bigger sense outside of just tattooing. It's like tattooing will always be there. That'll always be the first love of things. But I want to figure out how I can keep expanding myself and my career. She definitely inspires me to do that.
So fun.
Yeah.
Is there anything before we wrap up that you want to share or like specifically talk about something that you're working on right now? Anything like that?
I'm going to have merch soon. That's
Oh yeah, I
exciting.
saw that. That's gonna be so fun.
Yeah, I'm going to have some merch available soon. Pre-order is going to be available February 7th. And very excited. I think I'm just going to be looking at launching some different styles of like teaching. I want to host a retreat, which would be really fun, especially out here in Joshua Tree where it's like retreat city.
Yeah, that
Everyone
is
does a
fun.
yoga retreat or a sound bath or something like that out here. And I would love to do that either for like tattoo artists in general to be interested to just come and like yap about tattooing together while being able to get a massage and do yoga at the same time for
Oh my
like,
God, that sounds awesome. Yeah.
you know, um, something like that. Or, you come and you learn to teach. So, I mean, if people see this and they want the retreat, let me know. I'll make it happen.
That'd be so
I love
fun.
to
And you
just
could
build.
have hand poking, you could have machine, you could have coil. Like you could have something for everybody.
Uh-huh. Totally.
Love it.
I would love it all. I like just being around tattoo artists and the learning different things. I mean, that's the coolest part about like being around other tattoo artists is you're just constantly learning new things.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's cool to have community. Glad we have the internet so we can
Yes, thank God
bring
we have.
community like that. Sweet. Well, where can people find you online? Where can they support you?
Instagram's the best place to go. So my Instagram is at Love Taylor Elyse, and my shop is at Love Always Tattoo. And you can always visit our website. That's where all my educational information is.
That is lovealwaystattoo.com. And yeah, that's about it. Awesome. Well, thank you for spending this time with me and sharing so much awesome information. I know that I feel like I learned some stuff, especially about Joshua Tree and hand poking and the business side of things. So I appreciate your willingness to share.
Of course. It's so great to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, I'll see you online.
All right.
Thanks. Bye. Today's episode was completely edited, recorded, and produced by Kale Pearson. The music was mixed and edited by Dominic Gopal. You can find us on social media at Breaking Skin Pod. For more information, check out our website, breakingskinpod.com. You can find my social media at kale.tattoos. That's spelled Kail. To check out more of my work, visit kaletattoos.com. For more information on today's guest, you can find their social media in the show notes. Please come hang out every Monday morning at 6 a.m. Central Time for another episode of the Breaking Skin Pod. Thank you all for listening and hanging out. We really appreciate the support. Can't wait to see you next week. Cheers.